Discussed about the investing layer of the deep cervical fossa. Now the two other fossas are left. One is the pretracheal layer and another is the prevertebral layer. Now remember, both this pretracheal layer and prevertebral layer, they will begin from the fossa which will cover the deeper surface of the sternocleidomastoid. So fossa covering the deeper part of the sternocleidomastoid, from here this pretracheal layer will begin. So after its beginning, this will form the anterior part of the carotid sheath. So this will form the anterior part of the carotid sheath, then it will reach towards the lobe of the thyroid gland. So it will split at the lobe of the thyroid gland, this will cover the thyroid gland and it becomes continuous with the opposite side. So this is the horizontal extent of the pretracheal layer. Now one thing that you have to memorize is that the facial layer which will cover the anterior surface of the thyroid gland and the fascial layer which cover the posterior surface of the thyroid gland, out of these two fascial layer, the layer covering the posterior surface is much loose and lax compared to that of the fascia which covers the anterior surface of the thyroid gland. Because of that, any thyroid swelling will at first will project backwards because of the loose and lax nature of the deeper layer of this pretracheal layer. And the thyroid swelling, when it bulge inwards, this will first compress this esophagus. So the thyroid swelling patient always complains of dysphagia because of, remember, thyroid swelling always protrudes backwards because of the loose nature of the fascia covering the posterior surface of the thyroid. And second important thing is that from this posterior layer, one fascial extension will connect this posterior layer with the cricoid cartilage. This extension is called as the ligament of Berry, and because of this ligament of Berry, the thyroid gland will move during degradation. There are other factors also, I will discuss these things. So this is the horizontal extent of the pretracheal layer. Now if we trace this pretracheal layer above and below, then what we will get? So this pretracheal layer will cover this thyroid gland. So this will attach along the oblique line of the thyroid cartilage. This is the thyroid cartilage. So this will attach along the oblique line of the thyroid cartilage, and the middle part gets attached to the hyoid bone. This is the hyoid bone. So upper extent, so this pretracheal layer above, it will attach along the oblique line of the thyroid cartilage and always with the hyoid bone at the middle. So because of the attachment of the pretracheal layer with the oblique line, with the hyoid bone, and also with the cricoid cartilage, because of the three attachments, remember this thyroid gland always moves with the degradation because of these three attachments. Now if we trace this pretracheal layer downwards, then what will happen? This pretracheal layer will pass in front of the trachea and this will enter into the mediastinum, and this is continuous with the pericardium. Now during its entry into the thoracic cavity, this is continuous with the suprapleural membrane. These two are the suprapleural membrane, which are continuous with the downward extensions of the pretracheal layer of the deep cervical fossa. Now come to the last layer of the deep cervical fossa, that is the prevertebral layer. Now prevertebral layer also begins from the fossa which will cover the deeper surface of the sternocleidomastoid. After its beginning, this will cover the posterior part of the carotid sheath, that will form the posterior part of the carotid sheath. Then it is continuous with the similar layer of the opposite side in front of the cervical vertebra and this prevertebral muscles. Now one fascial extension will extend backwards, which will cover the scalenus anterior, scalenus medius, levator scapulae, and it will disappear under cover of the trapezius. So this layer which will cover these muscles will form the floor of the posterior triangle, and this layer will form the roof of the posterior triangle. Now remember one very important point, in between this roof and floor only one single structure lies, which is the true content of the posterior triangle. This is the spinal accessory nerve. And another important point that you have to memorize is that in between the scalenus anterior and the scalenus medius there is a passage of the brachial plexus and cervical plexus. So brachial plexus of nerves, it will come out in between these two muscles. So this brachial plexus of nerve has to reach the lower upper limb. So during its travel towards the upper limb, this will drag this prevertebral layer of the deep cervical fossa. and this will form the axillary sheath. So remember, axillary sheath is formed by the extension of the prevertebral layer of the deep cervical fossa. And within this axillary sheath, we will get the brachial plexus of nerves and the subclavian artery. Subclavian vein is always outside the axillary sheath, and because this structure is outside the axillary sheath, this will allow the expansion of the subclavian vein. So this is about the two important things that we have to memorize in respect to the prevertebral layer of the deep cervical fossa. One is the axillary sheath, and second one is the superficial to this prevertebral layer we will get the spinal accessory nerve. Another important point that we have to memorize is that in between this posterior layer of the carotid sheath and the facial extension of the prevertebral layer, we will get the sympathetic trunk. So there is a space posterior to the posterior layer of the carotid sheath where lies the sympathetic trunk. So if we trace this prevertebral layer vertically above and vertically down, then what we will get? So this prevertebral layer vertically above, it gets attached to the base of the skull, and from the base of the skull, this fascia, it will split twice. One, this anterior extension, we call it as the alar fascia, and this posterior extension is the prevertebral fascia, and there is a space in between this alar fascia and the prevertebral fascia. These spaces we will discuss in a separate class. Now these are the three constrictor muscles forming the pharynx. We will discuss these things in a separate class. And these three constrictor muscles are covered by one important fascia, that is the buccopharyngeal fascia. So this alar fascia, this will fuse with the buccopharyngeal fascia. And these are the vertebra. In front of the vertebra we got the anterior longitudinal ligament. So this posterior part, which is called as a prevertebral layer, this prevertebral layer will fuse with this anterior longitudinal ligament. So this is the vertical extent of this prevertebral layer and horizontal layer that we have already discussed. The last thing that you have to know is about the carotid sheath. Now remember, this carotid sheath, its anterior part is formed by the pretracheal layer of the deep cervical fossa, and its posterior layer is formed by the prevertebral layer of the deep cervical fossa. Within the carotid sheath, we got two important structures. One is the common carotid artery and its divisions, internal carotid artery and the internal jugular vein. In between this artery and vein, in between and behind, we will get an important structure, that is the vagus nerve. Now remember, carotid sheath is always thickened towards the arterial side, and it is very thin over the venous side. Why thin? To allow the expansion of the veins. So this is about the carotid sheath, and this carotid sheath is pierced by few structures. The external carotid artery, which is the branch of the common carotid artery, it is also pierced. It is piercing this carotid sheath. All the tributaries of the internal jugular vein will pierce the carotid sheath. The cervical branch of the vagus nerve will pierce the carotid sheath, along with hypoglossal nerve, accessory nerve and glossopharyngeal nerve. These three nerves also pierces the carotid sheath. So this is about the carotid sheath. Carotid sheath may come as a short nerve. So that's all about the deep cervical fossa. Thank you.